Hi, this is another iOS tutorial, and today I will be talking about table views. More specifically, we will be going over how to make custom cells, how to add accessories to cells, and how to delete, insert, and move rows. So let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start a new project. We're going to make it a single view controller, so single view application, and we'll just call it table view example. This project will start with a regular view controller, but for this example, I'm going to use a table view controller. So after we create it here, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into our storyboard and we're going to delete the initial view controller. It's also possible to use the initial one and drag a table view object into it, but instead I'm just going to go with the built-in table view controller. So we're going to click there, it's initial view controller. We're good. So view controllers are typically more flexible, but if you want a controller that's just a table view, I think table view controller is usually the way to go. Since it's a different class, since it's table view controller versus view controller, we need to add a different class file that inherits from the table view controller class. So this one does, as opposed to the one that comes with it, view controller.h and view controller.m inherit from view controller. Now here we're changing the identifier to my cell, so we're going to reference that prototype later, and we're going to drag a label on it, and I believe we're going to customize the font of this label just to make it a little different. The idea here is we can use this prototype to make our own custom cells. So we're going to choose our font there. Let's see. We're going to choose that one, drag it over to the side, I think, and then we're good. Now all cells will use that font. The one thing we have to do for that though is we're going to have to change the tag of that label that we just drag on the cell, and that will let us access the label later. I think we're going to go. Right now we're changing the class, so we have to make sure that our view controller uses the right class file. In this case, our table view controller.h&m. So we did that, and now we're going to go over here and we're going to make a mutable array for the table. This is the table data, okay? And the table view controller will use this to gather content for the cells. So for each cell, we want to have an index of this array that has the content, basically as a string. So what I'm going to do here is going to create the numbers 1 to 0, 0 to 5, and we're going to put those into our array. So here we're going to, first I wanted to just add the object, but in order to do this, we have to use a wrapper, the NS number wrapper, because if you try to just do integers here, it will give you a warning. It'll say it can't convert type ID to integer because integers are not an Objective-C object. So we have to first wrap it in an integer, in an NS number, excuse me. And that's what we do there. We use NS number, number with int, that generates an NS number object with that integer I, and then from there we can add it to the array by using a method of NS number, which in this case will be called string value because I'm adding it as a string, so that will be easier to display in the table view cell later. So for here, we're just modifying the delegate methods. So the number of sections is just going to be 1. And here, we're going to make the number of rows in that section equal to the count of the array, which is self-explanatory because we want to use this array to kind of hold all the data of our table. And then from here, remember we made this cell have a unique reuse identifier. So this cell, let's see here. It's called my cell, I believe, right? We're going to copy that. We're going to paste it in there. And then from there, I think we're going to right. Here's where we modify the tag. So here we have tag equals 0 at first, but tag equals 1. And what that will let us do is basically grab that label off the cell. So first, we are using the DQ usable cell with identifier method to get that prototype cell from the table view object. And then from there, we want the specific label of that cell that we dragged on that has that specific font. So for that, what we do is we take the cell object and we call a method called view with tag. We give it the tag. In this case, our tag is 1. So now that pointer, that label to cell pointer, points to that specific label in the cell with that unique font. And from there, all we have to do is change the text of that label to match the data in the array. So it's going to be my table data, and then indexPath.row tells you which index of the table data that we're going to reference. We click play. And it'll take a little bit, but I believe when this is done, it'll display. Oh, I think we forgot something. I know what we forgot. Did you catch it? What we have to do is we didn't allocate the mutable array. We added objects to it, but there's nothing there. The value is nil because we didn't make a mutable array object to go to it with it. So here we're going to do ns mutable array new, and this time when we run it, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is a good overview of the custom cells and a general table view tutorial. I believe next what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be messing with the accessory types. So cell has another property called accessory type where we can basically attach something to the right end of the cell. Here I think we're putting in a button. So what we're going to do is we're going to add this accessory button for tapped at index path method. And all we're going to have it do, if you read that code, is it's going to display an alert when we click the button. So just have to remember that delegate method there. Then we click run. You're going to see that the table view has a whole bunch of little circle buttons on the right side over here. Now when we click it, it gives us an alert. So if you wanted to do something different, you can just write that different code inside the accessory button tapped method down there. Next, I think I'm going to use the check mark accessory. So it's also possible to have checkable or uncheckable cells. So what I'm going to do is we're going to use did select row at index path here. And at when a given row is selected, basically the accessory is going to change to check mark if it has a check mark, or it's going to change to nothing if it does not have a check mark. So first here we have, let's see. Right, we're going to get the cell because we need to know which cell we clicked because that's the accessory. We have to change the accessory of that specific cell. So that's what we do there. And then we check what the accessory type of that cell is. So if it's equal to accessory check mark, what do we want to do? And else, what do we want to do? So if it is already checked, what we want it to do is the accessory type will be nothing. So we're going to do just set it equal to nothing. That's easy enough. UI table view cell accessory nothing. Or none. There we go. That's easy. And then for the else, we're going to set it equal to check mark. And making checkable cells is as easy as that. So now if we run it, we should there you go, it checks, unchecks, which is what we were going for. And that will still work if I press the button. So next, I think what we're going to do is we're going to make some movable rows. Okay, so we're going to need a couple more delegate methods to do this. Also, we're going to want to add an edit button. And the easiest way to do this is to embed the table in a nav controller. So first we're going to use the embedded navigation controller, and that'll give us a little bar at the top. And then up here, we're going to set the right bar button item to self.edit button item. And this gives us a special button, and it will trigger edit mode for our table. Okay, and you'll see in a minute what it does. And then first what we're going to do is we're going to decomment some of this boilerplate here. And these two boilerplate methods are what allow your moves or allow your rows to be movable. So when you decomment those and then you click the edit button, what you'll see is the right side of the cells have these like 3 lines on it. You'll see in a minute. And that means that I can move the cell. So like that. You see it? There's like 2-3 lines there, and I can drag it and change the order of the cells. But there's a problem, because here, basically, I didn't change the order of the data, only the cells. So when a cell is regenerated, what will happen is the data will be overwritten. So there, 4 turned into 0. So we also have to change the value of the data. Otherwise, whenever we dequeue new cells from the table view, it's just going to overwrite them and our table view will get messed up. So we're going to do it in the move row at index path method. And I just quickly, it's just basically a swap there. It's all we're doing. We're swapping the 2 elements in the array. And as you can see here, after I implemented that, click done. And down there it matches. So in the NSLog, it will print out the contents of the mutable array, and that is what we want for that. So we're good. So I think next we will be doing insert and delete rows. Now it's going to use the same edit button. It kind of works by the same method, and we're also going to use a couple delegate methods here. So I think we have to use can edit row at index path. Let's see here in a minute. That's right. We're going to use can edit row and index path. So we want them to be editable, so we're going to return yes there. So that's going to be for all cells. If I only wanted certain cells to be editable, you could change that in that area. And then we're going to need another one. I think this is right. We need to know the specific editing style, because there's either delete editing style or insert. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have most of them be delete, and then one of them is going to be insert. So I think maybe the 4th row, or an index path equals 3 here, it's going to be insert. Otherwise, it will be delete. So insert there, else we will make it delete. There we go. And then here, this is what happens when you click the edit buttons. So like with the movable cell, we have to make changes both to the array and to the table itself. So I think it comes with the delete row for index path for the deletable row. But it does not come with the insert for the insertable if the editing style is insert. So what we have to do is I just changed that method slightly for insert row at index path, and then my table data, we're going to, I think, insert an object at that index. I'm just going to, the string is just going to be inserted at index. Our current index is always index path.row when we're in the delegate functions. So that's that. This may be a data source function, actually, I'm not sure. But delegate data source, you get the idea. And then for here, we're going to delete the object. So we're not going to use this method, though. We're going to have to delete it, and we're just going to delete the object at row. And as usual, we will be plugging in the index path.row for this argument here. And that should be it. That should do it. It's not too difficult. There's obviously quite a bit of concepts going on here. So this was a very involved tutorial, more so than some of my other ones where I tried to make it really simple. But hopefully you have an idea of how this is going to work if you have to do this. So there we go. See, look, inserted. And then if I want to delete, I do that. Done. I think I'm going to move a row here because then in NSLog it'll print out the contents. And as you see, the contents now match what you think they would match with the insert and deletes. So I think that's going to wrap things up. This has been another iOS tutorial.